All right, I'm gonna jump right into the next segment here with this. So I talked about lens flares and the method for creating other lighting effects that are more appropriate. Daniel, can we? Thanks. Um, the the key to lighting effects is just knowing where your sun is. So I mentioned that this is for one where you have your sun either in your image or it's like right on the edge of your image to a point where it could possibly have leaked a little bit of adjacent, sun ray into your camera lens. But what happens when your sun is behind you? So I'm going to switch back to this sky, right? And this is actually kind of a crappy sky. I might change it out for something a little better. But this one, clearly the sun is coming from somewhere off the screen to the right. So when I say the term light leak, are you guys familiar with what I mean? Light leak is a little different than a lens flare. I'll show you. So light leak is when yeah, it's kind of like a glare where other lights that are influencing the scene are kind of making their way, they're bending their way into the camera lens. So light leak is frequently used in photography and filmography. So you can see that it's a very hipster thing, right? These are pretty cool hipster photos. So we're going to play around with a little bit of that, but the key is like you want to use stuff like this to accentuate your image when you don't have your sun in the image. So anyway, these are the filters that you can use. You want to be careful about how intense they are. I would say something like this is probably way too intense for most renderings. Something like this or something like this where it's a little bit more subtle might be okay. But generally speaking, I like to find ones that have some character. Like either it warms up one side of the image or it cools off a corner. Or potentially you can find ones that are a little bit more, what's the word for it? Like it sort of shares the frame, like edge to edge. They're not really popping up for me right now, but I guess this one's kind of close. Like it's a little bit dynamic. It has sort of two sides to it. Kind of like that, not so much. Anyway, so I'm going to pull in, let's pull in this one. No, not that one. Let's pull in, yeah, let's pull in this guy. Okay. Let's copy it. I'm going to go in here and paste it. The reason I chose this one is because it has a very similar color palette to what I have in my image. There's some magentas where it starts to bleed into the blue range, but it's mostly orange. So this one, let's free transform. I'm going to put it up here. I'm actually going to pull most of that raw orange off screen. It's just a little too intense. But I'm going to let this sort of thing right here kind of bleed across the architecture a little bit. Let's check it with the opacity. So that opacity is turned down a little bit. I just wanted to check where that thing is falling across my architecture. And I'm going to set this thing to screen. And then I'm going to pull the opacity down. Actually, I think this one, not multiply, maybe we can do color dodge. Color dodge is probably too intense. Soft light maybe. Soft light could work. Soft light kind of works, but you'd have to brighten it up. Anyway, let's leave it at lighten or screen. Yeah, I like lighten better in this case. So anyway, what that's doing is it's kind of sort of just burning the right edge of the image a little bit, and it just activates, in my opinion, it activates a connection between the ground plane and the sky a little bit better than what was there previously. We could theoretically pull this thing over a little more. Or we could even free transform it, flip it horizontal, and let it, I don't like that. I don't like that either. Let's go back there. So that one's okay. But let's try another one. I mean, this stuff should kind of happen a little bit like rapid fire. It really shouldn't be something that you sit there and fiddle with until it finally clicks for you. It's either going to work or it's not. So I'm going to grab this guy, copy that, throw it in here, and turn that off. Except this one I'm going to flip vertical, so the kind of burning out of the image is down here. Yeah, let's give that a shot. Let's go to screen or lighten. There you go. Something like that. So it kind of burns out around the horizon and the right-hand side of the screen. So as I flip back and forth between these two, I find that to be a lot flatter and this to be a bit more dynamic. So I don't know how much of that you can really see very well up on this screen, but I'll download the images and stuff so you can see the comparison of the two onto the folder. Okay. So what questions do you have about light leaks? None. All right. I trust that you are all experts. It's not a very hard thing to become an expert in. All right, cool. I like your style.